Welcome back. I knelt to pray, but not for long. I had too much to do. I had to hurry and get to work, for bills will soon be due. So I knelt and said a hurried prayer and jumped up off my knees. My Christian duty was now done. My soul could rest at ease. All day long I had no time to spread a word of cheer, no time to speak to Christ to friends. They'd laugh at me, I'd fear. No time, too much to do. That was my constant cry. No time to give to souls in need. But at last the time to die. I went before the Lord, I came. I stood with downcast eyes. For in his hands, God had a book. It was the book of life. God looked into his book and said, "Your name I cannot find. I once was going to write it down, but never found the time." I hope you have time for Jesus in your life. Keep in touch with him all day long. How to forget. If you were busy being kind, before you knew it, you would find you'd soon forget to think was true that someone was unkind to you. If you were busy being glad and cheering people who seemed sad, although your heart might ache a bit, you'd soon forget to notice it. If you were busy being good and doing just the best you could, you'd not have time to blame some man who's doing just the best he can. If you were busy being true to what you know you ought to do, you'd be as busy you'd forget the blunders of the folks you met. If you were busy being right, you'd find yourself quite busy, to criticize your brother long because he's busy doing wrong, if you're busy doing right. And this is from one of my, I really like Andrew McKesty. He's a young man, in his 40s or something, single, apparently, still. He's a journalist, or he's the editor of a newspaper in Russia. Been there for about 10, 12, 13 years. Grew up in Africa from missionary parents, I believe. Don't pick up. The shrill ringing of my cell phone shook me out of the disturbing world of Jesuit priests, Freemasonry, and the mark of the beast being painted by a professor on my television screen. It was just a few minutes after midnight, following a late day at work, and I was watching a television seminar with an open Bible in my Moscow apartment. No one calls me at that hour, so I wondered who might be at the other end. Picking up the phone, I looked curiously at the incoming number. Instead of a number or the familiar name of a friend, an ominous message stared back at me, private. I answered and heard an unfamiliar male voice said, "Hi, Andy, this is Sin." "Who is this?" I asked. I couldn't believe my ears. I wondered how Sin had found me, S-I-N, and how he actually knew my name. I marveled that Sin had a distinct North American accent. Then I decided I'd better double check my hearing. "Who is this?" I asked. "It's me, Sin," the voice replied. I still couldn't believe it. Was someone playing a joke on me? "Who?" I said. "Sin," the voice said. I paused. This couldn't be happening. "Who?" I said yet again. "Andy," the voice said with a thin trace of exasperation. "It's Sin Johnson." Then I realized the voice wasn't saying sin, but Finn. Finn Johnson was a new colleague from work, and he had a question about obtaining his new Russian visa. Finn was calling from the United States, therefore the lack of caller ID on my cell phone and the unusually late hour of the call. After my heartbeat returned to normal, I began to wonder how often sin comes calling, and I stay around trying to figure out whether it's for real. What I should do is hang up straightway, because the longer I linger on the devil's territory, the more likely I am to fall. Think of it this way. An alcoholic should boycott bars. An obese person should avoid loitering around the refrigerator in the fast food restaurants. A person attracted to pornography should stay away from the internet, and possibly the computer as well. Physical places are not the only tempting ground. Temptation starts in the mind. So our thoughts will wander quickly into the devil's territory if we are not careful. Now, I certainly have no say about how other people talk or dress. I cannot dictate the images on billboards or in shop windows. But with God's help, I can control how long I think about what I see and hear. I can decide whether I will let my mind dwell on sin or instead embrace thoughts that are true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, or praiseworthy. The Apostle Paul is unequivocal in his advice about flirting with sin. Flee, F-L-E-E. Flee from sexual immorality, he says. Flee from idolatry. Flee from evil desires of youth, and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. I want to be among those who call on Jesus out of a pure heart, not spending my time trying to determine if sin really knows my name, or if sin really knows my name. I told Finn Johnson that the next time he calls me, he better identify himself by his first and last name, or I'm hanging up. Andrews McKessie. Kind of cute, huh? God bless you.